Joshua chapter 3. Preparations for crossing the Jordan. Early the next morning, Joshua and all the Israelites moved from Shittim and came to cross the Jordan, where they stayed before crossing over. 3 days later, the officers went through the camp and issued these commands to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, which the Levitical priests will carry, you must break camp and follow it, that you may know the way to take, for you have not gone over this road before. But let there be a space of 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not come nearer to it. Joshua also said to the people, Sanctify yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will perform wonders among you. And he told the priests, Take up the ark of the covenant and cross ahead of the people. So they took up the ark of the covenant and went before the people. Then the Lord said to Joshua, Today I will begin to exalt you in the sight of all of Israel, so that you may know that I was with Moses, so I will be with you. Now command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant, when you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, there take your stand. So Joshua said to the Israelites, Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God, he continued. By this you will know that there is a living God in your midst. He will certainly dispossess before you the Canaanites, the Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. The ark of the covenant of the Lord of the whole earth will cross the Jordan before you. Now choose 12 men, one from each of the tribes of Israel. When the soles of your feet of the priests carrying the ark of the Lord of the whole earth, touch the waters of the Jordan, it will cease to flow. The water flowing down from the upstream will halt in a single heap, the crossing begun. The people set out from their tents to cross the Jordan, with the priests carrying the ark of the covenant ahead of them. When those bearing the ark came to the Jordan, and the feet of the priests bearing the ark were immersed in the waters of the Jordan, which overflows all its banks during the entire season of the harvest. The waters flowing from upstream halted, standing up in a single heap for a very great distance. Indeed, from Adam, a city in the direction of Zarethan. Those flowing downstream toward the salt sea of the Arabah disappeared entirely. Thus the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood on dry ground in the Jordan riverbed, while all Israel crossed on dry ground until the whole nation had completed the crossing of the Jordan. Joshua chapter 4. Memorial stones. After the entire nation had completed the crossing of the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, Choose 12 men from the people, one from each tribe, and command them, Take up 12 stones from this spot in the Jordan riverbed where the priests have been standing. Carry them out over with you and place them where you are to stay tonight. Summoning the 12 men he had selected from among the Israelites, one from each tribe, Joshua said to them, Go to the Jordan riverbed in front of the ark of the Lord your God. Lift to your shoulders one stone apiece, so that they will equal in number the tribes of the Israelites. In the future, these are to be a sign among you. When your children ask you, What do these stones mean to you? You will answer them, The waters of the Jordan ceased to flow before the ark of the covenant of the Lord when it crossed the Jordan. Thus these stones are to serve as a perpetual memorial to the Israelites. The 12 Israelites did as Joshua had commanded. They took up 12 stones from the Jordan riverbed, as the Lord had said to Joshua, one for each of the tribes of the Israelites. They carried them along to the campsite, and there they placed them. Joshua set up the 12 stones. They had been in the Jordan riverbed on the spot where the priests stood, who were carrying the ark of the covenant. They are there to this day. The priests carrying the ark stood in the Jordan riverbed until everything had been done that the Lord had commanded Joshua to tell the people. Just as Moses had commanded Joshua, the people crossed over quickly. And when all the people had completed the crossing, the ark of the Lord also crossed, and the priests were now in front of them. The Reubenites, Gadites, the half-tribe of Manasseh, armed, marched in the vanguard of the Israelites, as Moses had ordered. About 40,000 troops equipped for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. That day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israel, and so during his whole life they feared him as they had feared Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, Command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant to come up from the Jordan. Joshua commanded the priests, Come up from the Jordan. And when the priests carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord had come up from the Jordan riverbed, as the soles of their feet regained the dry ground, the waters of the Jordan resumed their course, and as before overflowed all its banks. The people came up from the Jordan on the 10th day of the first month and camped in Gilgal, on the eastern limits of Jericho. At Gilgal, Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been taken from the Jordan, saying to the Israelites, "In the future, when your children ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' you shall inform them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan here on dry ground.' For the Lord your God dried up the waters of the Jordan in front of you until you crossed over, just as the Lord your God had done at the Red Sea, drying it up in front of us until we crossed over, in order that all of the peoples of the earth may know that the land of the Lord is mighty, and that you may fear the Lord your God forever." Joshua chapter 5 writes at Gilgal, when all the kings of the Amorites of the west of the Jordan and all the kings of the Canaanites by the sea heard that the Lord had dried up the waters of the Jordan before the Israelites until they crossed over, their hearts melted, and they were utterly dispirited because of the Israelites. On this occasion the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise Israel for the second time." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haarath. This was the reason for the circumcision. Of all the people who had come out of Egypt, every male of military age had died in the wilderness during the journey after they came out of Egypt. Though all the men who came out were circumcised, none of these born in the wilderness during the journey after the departure from Egypt were circumcised. Now the Israelites wandered 40 years in the wilderness until all the warriors among the people that came forth from Egypt died off, because they had not listened to the voice of the Lord. For the Lord swore that he would not let them see the land he had sworn to their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. It was the children of God raised up in their stead, whom Joshua circumcised, for these were yet with foreskins, not having been circumcised on the journey. When the circumcision of the entire nation was complete, they remained in camp where they were until they recovered. From the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have removed the reproach of Egypt from you." Therefore the place is called Gilgal to the present day. While the Israelites were encamped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, they celebrated the Passover. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, on the day after the Passover, they ate of the produce of the land in the form of unleavened cakes and parched grain. On that same day, after they ate of the produce of the land, the manna ceased. No longer was there manna for the Israelites, who that year ate of the yield of the land of Canaan, siege at Jericho. While Joshua was near Jericho, he raised his eyes and saw one who stood facing him, drawn sword in hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you one of us or one of our enemies?" He replied, "Neither. I am the commander of the army of the Lord. Now I have come." Then Joshua fell down to the ground and worshipped and said to him, "What has my Lord to say to his servant?" The commander of the army of the Lord replied to Joshua, "Remove your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. God bless you.